Good afternoon. I'm Marco Prenassi. I'm a data engineer and data curator here at the LADE, Laboratory of Data Engineering of the RIT, Area Science Park. Today I am explaining FAIR in practice. Federica Bazzocchi already explained quite well the FAIR approach by my EU Commission. Is a worldwide thing nowadays. But what I am saying today is how are we going to implement it in our system? Also, Ruggero Lotta explained it quite well, the underlying architecture of our data center FAIR, or the future of our data center. And one of my objectives today is take this FAIR in practice, implement it in laboratory perspective, so that is digestible to everyone, I hope it will, and to create this data, to make the data, to make research, to make the research usable between our laboratories. First of all, let's take a little bit of a glossary so FAIR, what does it mean? To be brief, findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. Findable, we have to search the data. Accessible, we have to access it. Interoperable, we have to take the data as it is most of the time and use in our machines. And reusable, there are two things. That's first, we have to use the data in a future setting, and also use the data in other fields. So the data must be usable in other fields. First term. Second term, open science. Open science is an ecosystem. The meaning of open science is to share the science with everyone. Is FAIR data open science? No. FAIR data is an approach to our data, but we choose the people that we share with. But must open science be FAIR? Yes, because it's an ecosystem. So data not FAIR, you can decide to share it with the world, but the world cannot access them because it's not accessible, findable, and so on. Last term, data management plan that you have seen a lot. It's could be. It's not a useful tool to make this data as a data that we can make it fair. So how we make this data fair, how we make this data open, if you want to make it open, and so on. That's the free terminology. But let's say let's talk about a normal use case, idyllic use case scenario. So we make some research, we make some good results. We want to share it with the community. We want to share it with data scientists. We want to share it with other labs. We exchange this data magically. Everybody's happy, and everybody publish something of value, we hope. So this is the main project. I tell you this because there are two phases. The first is we make our experiments, we make our results, and then we share it with everyone, and then we write our article and so on. Let's see a little bit better these phases, let's call it. The first phase means I want to do an experiment. I talk with my colleague, I talk with my supervisor, I prepare the experiment, I receive or create the samples, really important, and then I try. I make some bad results. The experiment was not well received by the sample, or so on. I try again, and then at the end, I have the good results. Okay, this is the phase one. Phase two, I start to share my results with everyone, so with the two data scientists and other labs. But there are a lot of problems, like, yes, I have to share the data with the data scientists, but where I put the data, in what form, in which format I share the data. And also sometimes I have to share even the samples with other laboratories. So we have 3 people in this scenario. We add a 4th and it's a mess. So, or it starts to be a mess. So it's really important to improve in this system, and fail after COVID and European Commission is one of the tools that we can use to make it fair. So let's improve this system. First thing first, we can make a good and usable DMP, a good usable data management plan. So before we do the experiments, share and everything, we say, okay, what can we do with our system? We make a good DMP. Now, this is an example of a DMP of the use today by the NIH, National Institute of Health of the US. It's similar to other DMPs. They use it for 2 reasons. One, to have a data management plan, but the second one is for grants. So it's really, I can say it's a wall of text to say it. So it's really long with a lot of parts, and it's and you have to do one of these for every grant that you want to apply or every experiment. It's a lot of things to do. So we have to a little bit, and this is an example. A lot of the MP tools that you find. This is a US system, but European Commission are the same. So we have to a little bit create this system a little bit lean and clean, and so let's divide it in a manner that is understandable and easy to make for the researcher. Okay. So let's take the first phase that I've shown you before and divide it in 3 phases, 3 main phases. The first is when we get the samples, okay? Or we create the samples, of course. The problem are similar in the data management perspective. The second one is when we do the experiment and we are in the lab trying to get results. And the last one is, okay, we get the results that we want and we want to share it. We divided it, the 3 phases, in 3 main questions each, 2 in the last one, but it's so the first one is what it is, what I am analyzing, okay, what are I going to do with this sample, and also all the if there are issues with privacy or biosecurity. This sample it's from a human subject or not, and there are some virus attached to it that they are a danger to the population, or to the animal population even. So the first thing is this, and these are questions that we have to answer, but we have to answer not for the data management plan, but in any case, we have to answer this question. The second one is when we do an experiment. Now, I use instruments, I use devices, I use my eyes, but I'm creating data about the samples and metadata. So that data about this example I'm created, in which format, what software I am using. And also I'm using some standards and classifying this in some biobank or other, and so on. And the last one, where do I store it, this data? Last question is, where do I put the final result, and are you sharing your data with whom, with who, with how, and so on. This is this is a DMP. If we answer all these questions, we make a DMP. To facilitate you and everyone else, we can divide these phases. We can like give you a form for instance, a simple data storage in the entry at the beginning of your experiment that you write down what are you experimenting on, and you can put data sheets, sample sheet, and everything that you need in a simple data storage. Then during the middle phase, the experiment phase, we can see together how you work in a data perspective. Of course, we are not going to tell you how to do your work, but in a data perspective. And so which software do you use, which data are you producing, and so on. And this will create the laboratory DMP, data management plan with the laboratory, and it's and it will be integrated in the DECOS digital ecosystem DMP of all the PRP project. The last thing is the result form. So the sample enters, and we need to know what it is. You do an experiment, and we need to know the experiment. And the last thing is the result form at the end, where you tell us what you have done really with the sample, because it's not always so clear in the system. Let me tell you something. This is a data management plan, but a lot of this information, they go in your articles. So you have to write it down in any way. And this is Nextcloud. For now, we are testing Nextcloud to implement this system. We see the first implementation at the end of this presentation, but we are deploying some system. So this is the first thing. We are making a data management plan that is manageable. What do we need? From you? Use cases. From the laboratory, take 1, 2 use cases. So we have an experiment, we want to do this, we have done this and that. Tell us, and we will share the information with you. And we're creating these forms, this DMP, and the exit form at the end. So we have a model that could be updated in the future. Okay. This is the multi-tier DMP. I put it in there because I've already presented it, but we have the fixed so-called experiment, the middle phases DMP, that is single laboratory DMP, and the overall DMP in the DECOS that will overall all the system. And we have the single experiment DMP that use the forms, the entry form and exit forms. This is the first thing. Second thing, and this is the most intensive, but we have to do it for verification also, because it's useful to store our data. The second thing that we are doing in the DECOS, the IVG, and so on, all the Orfeo data system, is creating the ecosystem that will support all these data management plan. There are not some document that it's in the air and nobody doing nothing. So let's improve the system. Second phase is let's create our digital ecosystem. So let's use the FAIR approach, starting with accessible. First thing first, we are creating a data lake. Ruggero Lot already talked about it. I'm not going to explain it a lot, but it's a simple place that will be the Orfeo data center, and not only, I hope, the other data centers, and where we put our data. It's a lake of data. So we put there our data and we fish it out. It will be based on S3 bucket. It's a technology used by Amazon and so on. I'm not going to, if you want to ask away without problem, but I'm not going to point out about that, but it's simply a data lake. Imagine like a lake that you put your data inside and you fish it out. Second thing, we have to find our Okay, it was not the, okay. We have to find our data. And we are using, and we see it later, a system used for material science that we are really looking forward to because it's useful also for our use case. Then, of course, we have to make it interoperable with our system of simulation, automatization, and analysis that is Orfeo data center, so the capabilities, the supercomputer capabilities, and lastly, the interface to retrieve the data and to put the data inside to retrieve the data. You see, this is a donut for an engineer because it's square, but it has a big hole in the middle because fair is a good thing for data, but it's not all. So we need to make the data complete, original, accurate, how we do, and usable most of the time. So the researcher must put every data that we can. So how we do that? We make an electronic laboratory notebook. We already talked about it, and it's the last system that we put in place in our DECOS ecosystem. Let's see every pieces in. Let's see every piece that I mentioned. We are creating a virtual environment. Okay, this will be a virtual environment that we test and test with you before implement it for real. So we call it virtual Orfeo. The first thing is the electronic notebook. The electronic notebook is simple. The old laboratory notebook made it electronic. What are the cons is not on paper, and we cannot do a lot of about to correct it. But what are the pros? That it follows you in the entire experiment, so you don't have to put data that it's not useful to you, and it will be automatically. It will automatically sort out the data, and it's a really important tool if you want to see what is not going. You can put inside the machine data that you normally do not use in the result experiment. You can put it the failed experiment, the failed procedure, and you can have a database of failed experiments, and it could be really important to see at the end, or to see for other experiment. You can put a lot of things that will be automatically digested by our system. Then second system is the search and manage. I've seen this is based on the Nomad Oasis. Nomad is a system used in material science. Is really a database of a real database of research data with all the metadata that we can search and manage our data. We can search the metadata. We can search the experiments. We can search like everything about it. It's a really good database and repository of the experiment of a lot of laboratories. We have to adapt it a little bit because right now the Nomad is the centralized system and we are not owning it. It's a material science system. It stores the data in the DOI system. And it shared the data with in open science with the large community. We are creating a Nomad Oasis that is the Nomad system in our repository, and we can do with the data whatever we like. We can share it. We can create more Nomad Oasis, one for laboratory, for example, and we can use our persistent identifier, and we can do a lot of things. We can also set up a Nomad Oasis, our Nomad Oasis, with a DOI, something that we buy from a registered agency, and we can have a repository of our data shared by share for all the scientific community. Our experiments, our data will be in the local, let's say, centralized but local nomad oasis, and then we can choose what we share with the world with another nomad oasis or with other systems. This is the architecture, but I'm not going to talk a lot. I tell you also an example of automatization that we have made it in our lab. We have made it thanks to Virginia Gazzero, our PhD student right now, but not anymore our PhD student, but we still collaborate with her. And that is the automatization pipeline for sequencing with the LAGE, the Laboratory of Genomics that we have. We take the Novasec 6000 sequencer, we take the data from them, we put it in our system, in Illumina Run in this case. We read it. And we launch the multiplexing pipeline. After the multiplexing pipeline have run its course, we see if everything was right in the multiplexing. If something was not right, we get the notification. We modify the files and we run it again. Really simple, explain it like that. It requires a little bit of work. It's based on Jenkins. That is a pipeline. Really, it's easy to use for a data engineer pipeline manager, and we can write a lot of automatization technique with this system. Also, we integrated it, and it's working. Yuri, that is here, our PhD student. We are integrated these pipelines with our electronic notebook, ELAB, so we can have an interface. And this is the architecture, but I'm going directly to the screenshots, because now we can use the electronic notebook not only as an electronic notebook, so we write down our experiment. We can use it also to launch our pipelines, to check our experiments remotely, directly by ELAB. It's still, we are working on it. It gave us good results, and we are, for now, really happy, and it's starting to work as intended. We are still in the first phases of development, but we have done something useful. Lastly, the interface. This is the work in progress of the work in progress, because it's a simple system by design, and we are trying to take it, and we are just using something, but it's we have to test a lot with you, because it's the initial and the last interface that you use. So the initial phase when you get the sample, and the last phase when you put out your results, they all pass in this interface. And is based for now in Nextcloud, the S-square space that we are testing. So it's really basic. For now, it has like a form tool, so a questionnaire tool that you put your data, initial data with initial experiment, and also an exit form that you put your results, what you have done, what data you have created. And also it has a simple file repository that is not the full repository. It stores only metadata file like data sheets, sample sheets, metadata that you cannot put in the DMP tool, so you cannot link to the file. It's a simple interface. These are the first. Sadly, we need to update Nextcloud to sustain forms. So we have used Microsoft Forms. For now, we are testing with our laboratory of genomics for the first phases for the forms, but we use the Nextcloud to get some sample. This is a real use case that we are collaborating with UnityS Valerio, Professor Yeb. And in these days, like it's like that. So these are all the tools. Of course, this is of interest, I think, of little people, but we want to expand this architecture to include more large we support ontologies, support international database repositories, and so on. And I've concluded with only, I have to remind you to what we need right now to improve this system. A lot of, if you give us use cases, we can build our DMP that will be our DMP, and test our ecosystem that will fit your needs. And we are really open to it, and the starting point will be use case. So let's test it let's see your experiments, and let's integrate it with our system, and you can tell no, it's not working or so. So this is my presentation, and thank you.